Good afternoon. I am Darlene Davenport, your Greater Tampa Realtors President. Thank you for joining us for a virtual look into real estate today. Through the past 30 days, we have pivoted into a way of doing business through virtual resources to protect ourselves and our consumers. However, beyond this health crisis, we will see this virtual way of business evolve into our business for the future as a more efficient way of conducting real estate. Our panelists today are here to share the ways of conducting business virtually for transactions and beyond to marketing. Our first panelist is Aaron Davis, CEO, AMD Enterprises, a conglomerate of business ventures including Florida Agency Network, known as FAN, Premier Data Services, Network Transaction Solutions, and several others. He has grown a single office title agency, Hillsborough Title, known to us, into the Florida Agency Network, FAN, consisting of multiple statewide locations and title agency brands: Hillsborough Title, Paramount Title, Tampa Bay Title, Smart Title, Strategic Title, Affinity Title Services, Gator Title, and Total Title Solutions. The companies employ over 200 staff and is one of the largest settlement providers in the nation. Premier Data Services, PDS, is a SOC 2 Type 2 examined technology services provider, which specializes in management services, cloud hosting, network security. PDS has quickly evolved in one of the settlement service industry's go-to services for IT support. Network Transaction Solutions, known as NTS, offers back office, ancillary support, and settlement solutions, such as title search products, lien search, post-closing services, data processing, a national mobile settlement, notary, RON service provider, mobile home transfer division, and a short sale foreclosure service department. Davis is currently entering the third session of a 3-year OPM, Owner President Management program at Harvard Business School, wow, designed for CEOs actively involved in day-to-day operations, with a focus on leadership, assessing strengths and weaknesses, and identifying emerging opportunities. Aaron is a proud father of 2 boys, Aiden, 17, and Jackson, 14. In his spare time, he enjoys traveling, downtime at the beach, Florida Gator athletics, and CrossFit. At this time, I'll turn it over to Aaron Davis. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. So it's been interesting out there, huh?
Yes, it has.
So, I guess the thing that we're seeing right now from a closing perspective is creativity. One of the challenges is that I'd say about 80 to 90% of the business is still done in a face-to-face paper world. And of course, when you have something like this, it's challenging to now interact face-to-face. We're all scared to death of germs. We're scared to death of paper, touching the same pen, sitting in the same closing room. So we've certainly had to see a lot of change in the way that we conduct business and the way that we interact with our clients. And so, it is, we are seeing a lot of creative solutions now. Things like a drive-through closing. So who would have ever thought that we would have converted all of our offices to essentially Chick-fil-A drive-throughs, where we can hand a client a clipboard, with their closing documents and a pen, and sign in the safety of their own car. So that's one of the solutions. The other one we call a distance closing. I call it the unromantic dinner. It is people sitting at the opposite end of a table. So if you guys remember Batman years ago, when he's at one end of the table and she's at the other end, and so that's the way we conduct closing. Stay 6 feet away in the physical. So and we've also had things like patio closings, outdoor, just get some fresh air, and do it that way. But the thing that we're most interested in, and I know that most of us here are probably, really looking forward to, is now the emergence of the true e-closing.
Mhm.
And so there was when you're reading my lengthy bio, and I'm sorry about that.
It was
uh,
great.
yeah, we've gotten I've had to get interesting over the years. Title is not the most sexy subject in the world. Um, what is of interest to a lot of us on this presentation is that of e-closing and a technology called remote online notarization, or RON, RON for short. And what that allows us to do is now truly conduct a closing from the minute it goes under contract or even application, all the way through the closing transaction, in a totally paperless and safe environment, and allowing our clients to close at the place of their choice, whether that be at their home, at their work, in their car, wherever it is. They can literally use an iPad and conduct a closing transaction in that manner. So this is something that's very near and dear to us. One of our title offices, we conducted the first remote online notarization closing in Florida's history back in March of 2018.
Wow,
And
congrats.
so, thank you. So it was done in a very a beta test type environment, but we've since closed hundreds of transactions in that manner. And now, this is the new norm. No one wants to come into an office. We still need to close transactions. So now we're literally have a pipeline of thousands of transactions coming up, utilizing the e-closing method and remote online notarization.
So Aaron, are there any transactions out there that our realtors might be involved in that cannot utilize this e-closing today, whether it be residential or commercial?
Yeah, so the law, the states had to put in new legislation to allow for the online notarization to exist, to be more widely accepted. The way that we were doing it, years ago, is that we had a lender and we had an underwriter who were basically taking a chance, calling this kind of a beta test. And we did a lot of those. So the challenge right now is not every lender was prepared for e-closing. And a lot of lenders simply stood back and watched and waited to see what happened on a state to state and national level. So literally right now, I bet I'm going to say less than 10% of lenders in the nation are prepared to do an e-closing. When lenders have to be, there's a lot of technical aspects to it. It's not just as simple as signing up with DocuSign and PDFing a bunch of docs. And thankfully, we have Dan here because Guaranteed Rate is one of those lenders who were on the forefront of the e-closing revolution. And they have partnered with a company that we're very familiar with as well, called Notarize. Notarize was possibly the first online notarization company in the country who perfected the not only the closing experience, but also from a technical standpoint, they perfected the e-note and the e-vault. Those are two key pieces that a lender has to have in place in order to do that transaction, on a device of choice and sell on the secondary market. And that secondary market, those buyers are Fannie, Freddie, a lot of the buyers of mortgage-backed securities. So that's the tech piece of it. And that's why right now why there's such a struggle in lenders trying to get prepared to get ready to e-close, is because now everyone in the world wants it at the same time.
Right.
And the vendors involved are at capacity, and they're trying to grow like crazy to be able to handle this new demand. So that's where some of the challenges lie right now, is that not every loan qualifies. So Dan, you could probably speak to, I think it's you can't do some of the government loans, right? None of the Ginnies, so none of the VAs, FHAs of the world, I think, do not allow for e-closing yet, right?
Correct. Yeah, you're exactly right. So basically, you are just dealing with Fannie Freddie conforming. We do believe that we're very close. We've been lobbying very hard with Ginnie, with HUD, on FHA and VA. We think we're pretty close. We've got their ear. Nothing moves. They don't move as fast as Fannie and Freddie, but we think we're pretty close with them as well. So hopefully, there's really no choice here. If we, it's moved a lot faster in the last 2 to 3 weeks than it has in the last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So we think we're pretty close with them.
Yeah, no doubt. So we're hearing the same things as well. Interestingly enough, there's actually there was something just last week. Fannie and Freddie are now considering or approving the use of limited power of attorneys for a buyer who is using a lender who is not e-close ready. They now have adjusted their buying guides of these loans to say a buyer can give the limited power of attorney to the closing agent to sign documents on their behalf.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And look, don't it's they put it out there. There's no one that has done this yet. The title underwriters are the ones saying, hold on a second. You're telling me Aaron's going to sign hundreds of documents on behalf of borrowers? No, that's not a safe bet right now. So we're going through those, those pieces right now, because that was a fantastic out of the box thinking by Fannie to say, how do we keep borrowers safe and how do we keep closing agents safe? Let's do a remote online notarization session, allowing for a limited power of attorney to be signed via technology, and then paper documents signed on their behalf. So fantastic idea. Not quite, we're not going that direction yet, but it could get there. The other transaction.
Aaron, if I can interject there for a second. So we were, Guarantee Rate was actually the one that brought this to the forefront, not with a full traditional closing package, but with what we've been doing for about 2.5 years is a hybrid closing. Mm-hmm. We call it our flash close. In Florida, I think we're in between 60 and 70% of our closings now, purchase and refinance, are flash close. So the customer will, receive their closing package ideally 48 hours before closing. At 12:01 on the morning of their closing date, those documents become they're not grayed out anymore, and then they can actually e-sign everything. But I think it's like six or seven docs that need to be wet signed, which the goal there is to hopefully speed up the closing times, certainly at the end of the month where, you guys are buried and there's, a lot of closings taking place. So the goal of the power of attorney, and you hit it, the nail on the head, is to apply it to hybrid closings.
Yep.
As opposed to the full traditional, like you said, 100 pages, having that power of attorney in the notary's hands for those 7 docs. Because there's just people that do not want to have any type of physical contact. So I think that was the intention. Yeah. that we brought, and they've been pretty receptive to it, obviously. So.
Yeah, and it's the way that they were explaining it was utilizing the remote online technology platform to still explain the documents, and like Dan said, go ahead and DocuSign or e-sign 80% of that closing package, and then just the notarial acts for the lenders who were not quite ready for this and accepting of remote online notarization or full e-close, to be able to at least get those transactions done safely. So, and you mentioned too, Darlene, commercial does not apply at this time. Technically, the law is written that it could, but because it's only been passed since January 1, people are just kind of still getting used to it. So we're all learning at light speed right now. And we've actually, that was one of the other challenges in Florida, is that the Florida law was written that says Florida notaries must perform Florida transactions. So that's the way the law was written. We have since seen title underwriters take a very liberal stance and say, hey, look, since the law was just passed and there's literally just, less than 100 e-notaries in the state right now, let's allow for other states to notarize the Florida transactions so we can use Virginia notaries or Texas notaries or notaries in other areas. So one of the things that we've now seen is a rush of e-notary applications at the state level. Matter of fact, we are now up to 55 e-notaries on staff. So we have the most e-notaries in the state of Florida right now. There's only 700 as of, I think, yesterday. So I'm sure we'll see that start to grow tremendously. But there's just a huge learning curve, to all of this. That's why for all of us, absolutely. So it's for title companies, it's a new piece of software to learn. It's a new trick. We have to get used to being on camera for the closing to be recorded. So there's a lot of tech specs that go along with this as well. Thankfully, like with Dan and Notarize, they have a lot of those notaries on staff in other states, and they're at least able to utilize them to conduct the notarial act of closing.
Aaron, what challenges have you experienced with the consumers? This is new to them. It's one of the largest purchases for many, their home, and we're sending that to them to e-sign without that full experience of going through it. And we all know those two that sit at the table and want to read every line.
Yeah.
What are the challenges there, if any?
Well, you know what? One of the nice things is, like Dan mentioned a second ago, those in an e-close. Let's just take a look at a regular closing. 98% of the closing docs are the same over and over and over, and it's just really the date of closing that drives the proration of taxes, association dues, and per diem interest. So we're really just waiting on that final little day of closing, the clear to close, and then that specific 10 documents that are affected. The rest of that closing package, the borrowers can get that in advance. They can read through it at their own pace and review it. And in some of the platforms, they can actually go ahead and e-sign the documents that are non-date sensitive. Mm-hmm. They also can then say, you know what, I understand what this one is. I don't even have a question, but I'm going to pull these 20 documents aside. I have questions on those. So then when we have the physical closing, we can then engage on a face-to-face just like this and explain those closing documents to the borrowers. So from a refinance standpoint, this makes absolute sense. Matter of fact, most people refinancing, obviously they already own a home and they already went through this closing package before. And for the most part, our refis are, what's my payment? What's my interest rate? And get me the hell out of here. Let me sign quickly and let's move on with our lives.
Sure.
First time home buyers, I think that we all want to really, take more time with them, understand the closing. So we are in a learning curve of the physical face-to-face. Now going through more of a digital experience. But, a lot of our buyers, they're kind of used to this environment. They're used to webinars. They're used to Zoom. They're used to, and quite frankly, look at us here. We're all still interacting. We still see each other's, facial expressions and, everything else that goes along with it. So there's still that human connectivity, which you do experience on a lot of these platforms. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, I know Guaranteed Rate has a great website that kind of shows a lot of those that e-closing experience, and right. we've developed one as well, which we'll certainly share out for everyone to see what a hybrid closing looks like, what a full RON closing looks like, and even what an in-person e-closing looks like, where we all still sit at a closing table together, 6 feet away, but we're just passing laptops or iPads versus pen and paper.
And I had that experience in your office myself, most recent during this, 2 weeks ago. They did a great job in keeping that separation. We had a notary come in actually in your office. So a little different experience that worked out fine. It just
Yeah.
happened to be one we could not e-close and had to have it in person because of the backing, FHA loan.
Yeah, yeah, and we apologize to everyone in advance because it's a very now we're wearing gloves. You got gloves, you got masks. I mean, we're not breaking out hazmat suits just yet. Yeah, probably not the best experience for our buyers and sellers, but we're all doing what we can to stay safe.
Absolutely. So a couple questions have come forward. One is there a cap monetary? She's $700,000 cap, question mark. Is there a cap on any transaction for e-closings?
Not to my knowledge, no. Dan, do you guys have any?
Yeah, I can chime in there. So for the hybrid closing, we've been doing them on from FHA, first time home buyer, to your VA buyer, to the super jumbo buyer at $2 to $3 million. For the hybrid closing, it's available across the spectrum, no limitations at all. For the true e-closing, 100% zero touch, true RON e-closing, our investors on the jumbo side, and we are the largest jumbo lender in the country, so we have a pretty good pulse on the secondary markets for jumbo. They're not completely comfortable with RON yet. So it is limited to your Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, your conforming loan amounts.
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers your questions, which cap out at $510,000 loan amount.
Okay. Another question was hearing or sight impaired borrowers. Is there a different way that you're handling those with this e-closing?
It does, it offers challenge for sure. I would say that some of the notaries that, for instance, Notarize has, they actually have people who can do sign as well as multilingual. So it solves for that. Visual, of course, is a different issue, when we're having to have a closing in this manner. So I would say from my perspective, it's so new that we haven't faced a lot of those challenges yet on our side, but, we're certainly going to have to, by federal law, make sure that we're able to serve people who are challenged.
Sure. Another question is, do you recommend agents not attend the closings today? Rather just confirm buyer or seller are prepared ahead of time and be available by phone if needed. What is your take on agents attending?
Yeah, we are, we love agents. Obviously, they're what our bread and butter. But at this time, we're asking them to, limit the amount of people in that closing so that we can have a 6-foot rule in place. So
Right.
I've seen some creative, a lot, Facebook and social media is loaded down with pictures. We've had agents sit outside of the closing room, look through the window. Which is pretty funny. We've had them just stay in the lobby, and then if there is a question, we can call in or even FaceTime in. And what's going to happen soon, so on some of the platforms, they are becoming more of a Zoom type scenario. So imagine all of us are participants at closing now, and I could actually have my buyers and sellers, my lender and my realtors all attend via Zoom. So that's how we're going to get creative going forward, is to allow for everyone still to physically come in should they physically attend closing should they feel the need to.
Awesome. One more. An attendee says she has a seller in Panama. She is not a U.S. citizen. U.S. embassy is closed there. There is an apostle process based on an international treaty. Do you have any information or guidance on something like that?
Yeah, we're sorry. So here's the issue is that the laws that are written for remote online notarization have very specific language into how we do the authentication of the borrowers. And so we have to use knowledge-based authentication questions that are only found in credit history. So currently, the RON platforms are only, it has to be a US citizen or someone with a US issued tax ID number that has some sort of credit history that can be found in Equifax or Experian or one of the major databases. So if they are if they are a foreign national, at this time we can't use an e-close to help them.
So what about Zoom? When you can see them, they hold up a picture ID. And
Yeah, so there are states, you know, that's the problem is in New York, for instance, right? So the New York Governor Cuomo came out and said, yep, we're going to allow for this. Well, that's fantastic that he allowed for it. There's not a title underwriter, lender, or Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac in this world who will buy that loan that it was not used either the authorized RON methods or face-to-face. So I've definitely seen some very interesting people out there posting, oh, we could do FaceTime closings. No, you can't. Good luck with that.
yeah, for sure. One last question for you. Commercial broker, what are the challenges that you see coming forward with closing those loans? We spoke earlier about the e-closing not being there yet for commercial. Do you see some challenges there in today's environment?
Well, so let's specify cash transactions, not a problem. We could do cash all day long, both sides, commercial, residential, you name it, we could do it. It's when there's a lender involved, you know, on the commercial transactions are typically banks. And those banks have to get accustomed to, they have to be, do they want the risk of holding that note? You know, we've never had to foreclose on a remote online notarized document yet. So the laws have the protections in place for lenders, and that's why obviously more and more lenders are going this route. But from the local commercial bank giving that loan, that's where the challenges lie, and they're just not comfortable yet. Just like Dan mentioned too, you know, the jumbo loans above certain limits, there's just not a comfort level there yet. But I'm guaranteeing it'll change rapidly if they want to stay in business in the coming months and years ahead.
So is there something that agents can do proactive in this process with you as a title company that you say, hey, this is what you should be doing, this is what you want to look at with all your transactions? Is there one bit of advice there that you would share with all the participants today?
Yeah, you know, it's communication as always. Communication's key, and in this time, there's even more communication. You know, because we do have to clarify. We had a transaction recently where the seller said, "I don't want to come in to close." The buyer was using a lender who was an FHA, and so FHA said, "Well, we don't allow e-closing, therefore we don't allow RON." Well, seller says, okay, great. What does that have to do with me? Can I still use RON? The lender was just maybe unfamiliar or unaware of the state law. And they said, initially, they pushed back and said, no, that seller has to wet sign those documents and have a physical. Right, and it doesn't make any sense. Why on earth? Because that lender's not prepared. Why are they going to let the seller suffer for it? So we pushed back and we won for that seller, and we were allowed to handle that transaction. Matter of fact, that particular transaction landed in the Wall Street Journal last week. So there was a
surprise with you.
Yeah, we like the media, so yeah, that one landed in the Wall Street Journal, and the seller had a great, you know, it was a sale of an investment home, and he's like, "What? You know, this is a transaction I do all the time. Closing is not that special for him. He just wants to sign the docs and get on with his life." So this a remote online notarization session was ideal for him just to pick up and move. So everyone, and he raved over his agent, you know, the listing agent who selected a title company with this technology made them look good, you know. So that's kind of like the ancillary effect here for all of us, is that we get to really shine in these moments of need.
Absolutely. Well, Aaron, you certainly have, I spoke of your accolades early, but you truly have a pulse on our industry. You stay engaged, involved, and you were very involved with the Notarization Act. You do so much. So first and foremost, we want to say thank you for all you do. You're paving the way for many, and many don't know it, but you are. So we appreciate you so much. I'm going to go to
Thank you.
Dan next, but if you'll stay tuned, I'm sure there will be some dialogue back and forth again. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Our next panelist, Dan Larius. You've heard of him speaking already, and he is Senior Vice President and Regional Manager for the state of Florida for Guaranteed Rate. Guaranteed Rate is known for their industry-leading mortgage products, competitive pricing, and technology supporting the consumer and the transaction. Dan is consistently recognized as a top 1% mortgage professional with over 16 years in the mortgage industry. Dan has experienced the historical events in our history that preceded this health crisis we are experiencing today. He was at the forefront during the downturn of the economy to the financial crisis of 2008. Dan championed through those times with forward thinking and the ability to strategize with the consumer and meet their needs. It is Dan's dedication to consumer satisfaction, meeting the challenges put before him, and strategic thinking that earns him a top position in the consumer lending market today. Dan, I'll turn it over to you at this time.
Thanks, Darlene. Appreciate you having me. Appreciate everybody that's on. And I don't know who wrote that bio, but that kudos to whoever wrote that too. That's a good bio. Before I go into what I was gonna go over, I just wanted to take a moment to recognize everything that you're doing. Leadership it's one thing to lead when things are good, and then it's another thing to lead when things change very fast overnight. And you've done an amazing job. I know we're speaking a couple times a week. The questions that you're asking on behalf of the entire organization and just the greater good of not just GTAR, but state of Florida. Just our industry as a whole. You're doing an unbelievable job. So
thank you.
Goes to you.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Teamwork.
great job. Yeah, so thanks for having me. Basically, Aaron, great job. You covered a lot, in regards to how everything has changed, in the closing end of our industry. And basically, it feels like, the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've seen more progress than we have in years. And rightfully so, right? The whole goal right now is we're adapting as an industry, we're adapting as lenders, we're adapting on the title side, we're adapting, on the real estate agent side, and everybody working together with the agencies, with Fannie, with Freddie, with Ginnie Mae, with HUD, to move this thing forward is what it's going to take. And I think this is actually this will change our industry for the better long term. And it's up to us, all of us, to learn these changes and to constantly adapt as needed for the consumer, really. So Aaron, again, great job on the title piece. One other piece that has certainly been just as impacted, you can say, or similarly impacted, has been the appraisal process, right? So the appraisal process, if you kind of look back to, I don't want to get into the whole thing, but if you look back to 10 years ago or 2008, 2009, the appraisers, they've had a tough go. They've had a really, really tough go. And, for a while there, it just seemed like they couldn't do anything right? A lot of the issues that were had when some of these bad loans came to play, there was fingers being pointed at an appraiser, and frankly, it just wasn't fun to be an appraiser for many, many years. And I don't know if it's still that much fun to be an appraiser, but it might be a little bit more fun these days because, we are in rates are low. So the appraisers are things have kind of come full circle for them, and you see them out and working on refinances, which helps them. But that process has changed, and they've had to change overnight. And I think this is again another piece of it that we've tried to be on the forefront of the industry with Fannie, with Freddie, talking to them about basically how do we overcome human contact in the appraisal process. So, a couple things that and again, I'm open for questions, and this might be stuff that you guys have already gone over, and Darlene, feel free to stop me if you have. But basically, as of March 24th, Fannie and Freddie started to allow three types of appraisals, right? You have your traditional appraisal, which is an internal and external inspection, which most homeowners don't want to have, right? Whether they're selling a home or whether it's a refinance, most people are not comfortable with somebody they do not know coming into their home right now, right? So what are the alternatives? A desktop, which is basically an AVM, which is an appraiser looking up comps, and on a purchase, obviously referencing the purchased contract and coming up with a value there. And then a drive-by, an appraiser basically driving by to ensure that the structure is in place as a sound. There's nothing visibly wrong, as far as like shingles laying off of a roof or things of that nature. Now, FHA, USDA, your jumbo lenders, they still have not adapted to this type of process. So, again, the appraisal side of the industry is going through significant changes. We are seeing, and again, you guys are probably already seeing this, but we're seeing virtual appraisals happen where the appraisers actually go into the home. They are getting on FaceTime with the borrower. The borrower is, basically walking through the house. Sometimes they're actually taking pictures and texting it to the agent. You have to the appraiser. You have appraisers actually looking in through windows, asking them to turn lights on as bright as possible. So all stops are being, everything's being pulled out to try to accommodate this. But one thing that I think, one positive that's really, come out of this has been the speed, really. Prior to 2 to 3 weeks ago, you had this overwhelmingly unprecedented amount of refinance demand, which completely hampered, the appraisal process. And, purchases were suffering. I remember having a conversation with you, Darlene, saying, look, this is going to impact purchases. There's just not enough appraisers. So, from a home purchase standpoint, some of these changes have been really positive, and I think you're going to see these moving forward. And then, if you kind of move from title, right, to appraisal to the front end of it, again, most lenders are dealing with some type of online application, digital process. We've had a fully digital mortgage since 2015. So, one thing that we're big on, and it really truly matters to the consumers that we're talking to right now and has for the last couple of weeks, is we believe that we know that we can actually perform a 100% no human contact transaction from start to finish, whether that's a purchase or a refinance. That consumer does not have to have any type of human contact if they wish.
So Dan, is that specific to any title company can accommodate that with you as a lender? We know it's always a title, different lender, but in your scenario, you are authorized for the e-close, and you can take that from start to finish with most any title company.
Yeah, great question. So it's basically just like Aaron said on his end with lenders. Not all title companies were prepared. Not all title companies were prepared for this. And no, I think it's very important that on your transactions what title company, what lender you're working with, plus what title company you're working with, because no, not all lenders and title companies are equal, and not everybody was prepared for this. And, it absolutely matters. And I don't know, Aaron, if you want to chime in on that.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing an increase in our business simply because smaller title companies or law firms simply, don't really want to learn a new trick right now, because they're buried. I mean, they're buried, or they're facing challenges, or remote workforce. So it is a new trick that a lot of people are having to learn. Some people are just saying, you know what, it's just not for me right now.
Right.
So I think it is, it's very important just to identify those in the marketplace who have the experience, who, do have the excess staff and capacity. Imagine a small title agency of 4 or 5 people. And one of those is the owner, and one's the closer, and one's the processor, and one's the front desk, and one's a post closer. And all of a sudden, now we have to do a digital interface, as we're doing right now. It may not have the capacity to do so. So
Right.
I think we'll see we'll see a place where everyone does get more familiar with the process and become more accustomed to it. But I think this was all thrown at us so quickly that we're just learning at the speed of light. And I will say, Dan mentioned something earlier, and you may want to speak to this. We're definitely seeing kind of a clear separation in some of the lenders' capacity to handle the processing times. We're seeing some where they're just getting so backlogged. And I think that was because of a lack of digital process on their side, versus some still moving at the speed of light. So may want to take a moment just to explain why that's occurring.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And again, probably no different than it's a title company situation. There's lenders that were just not made to work remote. Big lenders that basically their support staff, their operations teams do not have laptops. So they've had to literally overnight go out and purchase tablets to process loans on. So absolutely, you can certainly say, look at some of the banks, some of the big banks, some of the smaller banks, but there's lenders all over that were just not prepared for this, which is causing significant delays. And then obviously you have children at home, and so you have some interruption in businesses that just all of us are dealing with. But yeah, no, you hit it spot on. There were lenders that are not prepared. So it is very important. I would recommend everybody on this call that's working with a buyer or seller, right, and has a transaction going. It's extremely important to understand, one, who that lender is that they're working with. 2, what that lender's efficiency is in this environment, right? And hopefully you're dealing with somebody that's going to shoot you straight. 3, what are they doing? So there's a pre-approval, and then what I like to say right now is there's a reapproval, right? And the reapproval has to do with unemployment. There has never been a greater heightened awareness from a lending standpoint on employment than there is now. And that's called reapproval, right? So we are basically going through 5 times throughout the transaction and verifying a buyer's employment and a refinance as well. And we're still finding that consumers are getting all the way, basically to the end of the transaction, and we're having deals where they can't close because they've been either furloughed, which if you're furloughed, that's considered so you cannot close on the transaction. The big one is they're still on payroll, but the business that they work for is closed and is not operational. And it's as simple as an underwriter actually just seeing online that website saying that the business is closed. And even if that person's still on payroll, they cannot close. So extremely important to understand when you guys are involved in the middle of a transaction or at the start of it, certainly the end, checking in with that lender. What are they doing? What checks and balances do they have in place to protect your buyer, to protect everybody really, to ensure that this buyer is employed. Reapproval.
Yeah. And Dan, I'll mention too, this happened in the last 2 weeks. Last 2 weeks, we've seen lenders pull funding at the table.
Yeah.
At the closing table, those who are dependent upon, lines of credit, some of the, subprime, some of the secondary market buyers are now gone. And we've had those deals fall apart at the closing table with lack of funding.
Yeah. So, yeah, great point. So in a matter of basically days, the loans that were coming back pretty strong, the bank statement type of loans, the stated income type of loans that were requiring large down payments, but had gotten pretty competitive. And we actually just did a backlog with a major home builder, major home builder in Central Florida. And what we've discovered in their backlog of, I think they have, almost 200 homes being built, 40% of those buyers were securing what's called non-QM financing, which is, a lower credit score, higher debt to income ratio, which is a bank statement type of loan, which is self-employed borrower not providing tax returns, a loan where you pay higher interest, right? A non-QM loan. Those vanished overnight. There is no non-QM market. Those loans are not available. There are still mortgage professionals, pretty reputable mortgage professionals, that are advertising these types of loans. Be extremely cautious. There's no money for those loans. It literally dried up overnight. And, it's impacted a lot of people at the closing table.
So are you seeing that in FHA and VA only? Those type of loans, we know there's underlying liquidity in the market. So speak to that real briefly for those to say, hey, eyes open.
Yeah. So basically what's happened with that, and I think Dan Hazy, you had a question regarding this, and it's a great question. No lender is immune to this. Basically what happened is when you saw the administration come out, and the minute that they use the word forbearance, the secondary markets for FHA and VA loans went haywire. The word forbearance, was being offered by Ginnie Mae, by HUD, and it basically took any type of market away from it. So what you saw is, because of this, a lender who originated an FHA loan that was profitable now had to pay to sell that loan, to sell the servicing of that loan overnight, and it's impacted a lot, which has caused the minimum credit score requirements to go up. So you're seeing some extreme examples of lenders going to 680, 660. You're seeing debt to income ratios now go from 55% down to 45%. You're seeing dramatic changes because of the administrative, the White House coming out and saying, we're going to offer forbearance forgiveness. So I think until that clears, you're going to see continued tightness on the FHA and VA markets.
Which relates to what Aaron is speaking of, getting to the table and the funding is not available. Correct, Aaron?
Right. And I would chime into what Dan said is agents, especially buyers agents, working with lenders that perhaps they're not familiar with. Maybe the buyer, found their own source. I would proactively call right now because, some people are just kind of stalling this transaction out, hoping that something's going to change or there's going to be some more additional intervention, but they know that those buyers don't qualify right now. So let's do us all a favor. Let's be, very proactive and forthright with that information, because look, it costs all of us money here, to continue working on those transactions, and updating title and ordering lien searches and doing VOE, all these things, we should communicate. So I would say, let's put the pressure, on the lender. Ask the lender, are we still good? The buyer circumstances have changed, ask those questions so that we can, find alternatives and still get these transactions closed.
Yeah. And CD, Thornton, yeah, great point. I mean, Fannie does allow for an alternative verification of employment now, where you can actually use a pay stub or direct deposit. But still, lenders are still going above and beyond. I mean, they allow for that, but if the borrower's not if they're not employed by the time they close, that loan's a buyback. And so not only are lenders actually verifying employment up until closing, there are lenders that are actually verifying employment after closing as well. And it's a necessary requirement right now for responsible homeownership and responsible lending, because the loan should not close if they're not employed, basically.
So one last question. Have you two, Aaron and Dan, seen what percentage of fallout have you seen in the last 30 days on transactions that were on the table in the pipeline? What is the fallout there?
Aaron, you want to start with that?
Yeah, and I've polled most of my counterparts with other, large title agencies throughout the state. We've seen over the last 2 weeks about a 20 to 30% decline of purchase activity. And then also in those numbers is also the cancellation rate. So we're watching very closely the decrease along with the cancellation. So the cancellation rate, they're increasing. The purchases are decreasing, but it's also we're in the season, we're in March, April, May. So it's very hard to judge that decrease. It's decreased based on, month over month from a year ago. So not necessarily over last month, because last month of this month is not an accurate representation of the market. So those are the challenges right now. But yesterday, all of a sudden yesterday we had 73 orders yesterday. So it was right. I'm like, yeah, get out there and sell, let's do it. So I say, you know what, let's defy the odds. There was a saying back in 08 and 09 that we're not participating in this recession. I say, look, let's not participate. Let's respect, the virus and what it brings, but let's continue life. Let's continue motivating our buyers and sellers. That is still the underlying foundational principles of this economy are strong. We are just faced with a once in a lifetime challenge, and let's continue doing what we're doing, because it's still a great time to buy and sell and conduct transactions in this market. Yeah, and I would say the same thing. We're seeing contracts, we're seeing the orders. There's a little bit of slowdown, I think, in the pre-approval activity, but the amount of people that were pre-approved, and certainly at a certain price point, the first-time home buyer price point, and it makes sense. You have to think, if you're being quarantined right now and you're pre-approved for a home, and let's just say you are in an apartment or you are in not your ideal living arrangement, you're like, get me the heck out of here. Let me get into a home, right? So we're seeing the activity on the purchases. The concern and the reality is that we are seeing an increase in the end of the transactions where that employment is being disrupted. I think that the numbers came out this morning, another 6.6 million have filed for unemployment. That's the biggest thing that we are seeing. So, just again, I would just do your due diligence, make sure that the lender on the transaction, it doesn't matter if you're selling the home or it's your buyer, ask the lender these critical questions. What are they doing to ensure, through the multiple steps that, that the buyer's protected, that all parties are protected, and that this thing doesn't fall apart at the end. And still at that point, just got to hope for the best, and we'll work around it.
Awesome. Well, Dan, thank you so much. You certainly are up for the challenge, as Aaron is as well. And most important, we want everyone to stay safe, but we want to bring the information to our members to say, we will get through this. We are Realtor strong. As a community, we're strong, and we went into this from a February month that was amazing year over year. And we've got a little setback, but we're in season. We'll come out of this, hopefully, still be in season, and continue. If we can just continue to do some business, it's not going to be at the magnitude, but with all that you're doing, both of you, we can continue to do business and keep everyone safe. So thank you for all you're doing for all of us. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So at this time, one of our three, and certainly an amazing gentleman himself, Nick Sakis. Nick has had his real estate license since 2005, always interested in technology. Nick found his passion in digital marketing and sales while using these tools to holster real estate sales. He quickly created a following through forming Facebook groups and podcasting. He has been the tech guy, guest on many national top 10 podcasts, such as Real Estate Uncensored. This led to the founding of Amplified Marketing Group. Amplified focuses on paid advertising for realtors and other businesses. He currently has a broad base of nationwide, consisting of individual agents, large teams, small brokerages, and other businesses, including big pharma. Being in touch with realtors nationwide has kept him on the cutting edge of industry trends. An expert on cross-channel advertising on Facebook, Instagram, Google, and YouTube, Nick delivers the highest ROI possible by consistently optimizing campaign data. A lead generation expert, he has also designed custom in-house CRM appointment booking software. His unique blend of real estate knowledge and internet savvy has brought about much needed industry products such as Video Chirp, an easy-to-use video review program for realtors. An advocate for giving back, Nick has taught classes at his office, spoken at local seminars, and has helped to promote attendance at various nonprofit events. He is currently the Women's Council of Realtors Tech and Social Media Consultant and is always eager to lend a helping hand. Most important in these times, Nick, you are a star. So at this time, turn it over to you and give all those hidden secrets to all of our participants.
That's right. That's right. Everybody wants the goods, right? Well, I definitely appreciate you having me on. I hope my bio lived up to everybody else that was on the panel before me.
Absolutely.
Dan, to kind of touch on what you said, one of the number one real estate memes that are going around right now are real estate agents posting, hey, now you've been stuck at home for a couple of weeks, you probably realize you need a bigger house, right? That's definitely a conversation starter online. And Aaron, to touch on one of your points, I think a lot of people are going to walk away from this webinar saying, who is Ron? So the reason I say that from a marketing perspective is, as real estate agents, as mortgage brokers, as lenders, we like to throw around industry terms and jargon. So I plead with everybody. You're learning a new term like Ron, actually tell people what it is. Don't use that abbreviation too much in your marketing and communications because you will confuse a lot of people. So that being said, there's a lot of things happening right now when it comes to digital marketing and social media. The sky is not falling in. Interestingly enough, because everybody is at home, everybody's glued to their devices. And everybody that's on this call has been on a Zoom, has probably been on a live conference at some point in the past couple of weeks, or a live call on Facebook and seen it crash. Well, Facebook is having a hard time actually keeping up with all the activity going on social media because everybody's going live and everybody's trying to share their message. And it's a really, really good time to be seen and be heard. And, something that I really like to help people with is getting their message and communication across. And one of the best ways you can do that is through video. So when we had this conversation, I told her I can go into the rabbit hole about a whole bunch of different stuff, from really advanced marketing tactics from Google and YouTube to Facebook. And she said, you know what, I think the people would get the most value out of video. And for me, it's been something that I've been trying to help people with for the past 5 years. And it's one of those things where right now, I don't want you to feel like you're irrelevant if you're not doing video, because you can still do video at a small scale or a large scale. And what I mean by that is, say you don't have the confidence yet to turn on your cell phone and go live on Facebook, which is totally fine. You can still do video emails and very personal communication with your database and your sphere. So one of the number one things I tell people is start on a small basis and just get accustomed to start using your cell phone and communicating with people through, say, FaceTime, or now Facebook Messenger is a really popular way to just shoot 15 to 30 second videos and send that with people. I don't have a magic bullet or a secret formula or anything that, you know, I can say tomorrow you can be a super video star. But one thing I will tell you is I'm not any different than anybody else. Anybody who's been shooting videos, so like if you see yourself and you're at home and you're like, I just, you know, I see this person on screen, I see this person on video, and I could never do that. I promise you that they didn't just turn on the camera and become completely comfortable with video. They probably started a long time ago and they practiced. And so for me, when I first started recording video for myself, you know, 6 years ago, I could barely turn on the camera and get one sentence out before I would completely forget what I was going to say. My heart was beating out of my chest. So one thing that I can, yeah, exactly. The best recommendation that I have for you guys is just record yourself talking to your phone every single day, and just know that when you hit that record button, that that video is not going to go live, that you're not going to have to publish it anywhere, but it gets you in the habit of actually practicing. And because what's going to take is at least a couple of hundred takes or videos to actually get your message across. So your personality, the person that you are in real life, when you're talking to someone and interacting with someone face to face, that person's not going to come out on camera until you practice over and over and over again. So for me, yes, it's great. You know, we're talking this panel about having everybody on, you know, the title companies, everybody's getting up to speed, but how do we get to people to closing? How do we introduce people to Guaranteed Rate? We have to bring people into our world through marketing. And right now there's no better form or way of communication than to do that through video. So if you're the type of person right now that is a hardcore, I'm on the phone from 8 o'clock in the morning till noon, cold calling people, and this is my system and it's very rigid. I would implore you to take one of those hours, if not all three of those hours right now, and practice video, right? Because it's really that important. I when I talk to people, you know, it's funny, someone will spend a month trying to figure out how to make their logo look a certain way, right, for their brand. And I got to have the perfect logo to put on my business card, but they won't spend a month trying to perfect an about me video that really tells their story of who they are and what neighborhood they serve and what community advocates they are. And that's really what people are connecting to nowadays. Is it's not who is Darlene Davenport as a realtor, it's who's Darlene Davenport as a person. And then, by the way, I happen to sell real estate and I can help you in this way. But this is my community. This is the places that I serve. And this is how I can help you navigate through these times. So that was a lot. Does that make sense?
It does. So video today in real estate, most especially here. You know, I was at Inman, New York, in the beginning of the year and just wrote an article for our magazine and spoke to them touting there the importance of video today to utilize in real estate. So we've heard video, but how does an agent today take that beyond what you've just said and really utilize it to the best of their benefit to market themselves, in addition to areas they work in a property?
Yeah. So when you look at kind of the industry as a whole, and we always have the big elephant in the room is like the Zillows of the world, right? That have been marketing and having consumer traffic to their portal for many, many years, right? The one advantage you have as an individual real estate agent in your market, when you look at macro marketing versus micro marketing. So macro, the Zillow approach is nationwide, right? They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars to be in a specific gray area, say your zip code, but they're never going to spend the money to actually target your neighborhood. There's not enough funds in their bank account to do that kind of marketing. So for you as a local real estate pro, you got to get out of the idea of marketing to a zip code. And when I say pick your farm, it's literally pick your neighborhood. And maybe it's the neighborhood you live in, maybe it's the neighborhood you just want to dominate that's down the street or what have you. But don't go more than actual 2 or 3 hyper local neighborhoods, and then just do everything you can to be the expert in that neighborhood. So if that's a master plan community, like say, you know, all the stuff that's happening in Wesley Chapel and all the new development over there, You know, do you know all the little pockets of all those different neighborhoods? Have you made a video about the community pool and the slide and the events that are going on? Another thing that is really, really like, you think about the driving force behind 90% of real estate transactions, and every real estate agent has had this conversation, is school district,
Right.
right? All families are moving, or if they're not even a family yet, if they're thinking about the school in some form or fashion. There's such a little amount of content right now of real estate agents actually covering schools. It's incredible. Like, you could actually go interview the football coach, interview the baseball coach, interview the principal, actually have 5 or 6 or 12 or a dozen videos about what is the top school in your area, right? We're in Tampa. You know, do you have videos that talk about why Plant High School is great, why Steinbrenner is great, why Berkeley is great, right? Those are the videos that consumer behavior, when they're on YouTube and they're searching where to buy a home in Tampa or what are the best schools in Tampa, now all of a sudden your video is showing up because you actually did the work and put in that interview. And that's the hyper local content that people are looking at, right? So doing that in other markets, I advise people to do that. Cost of living is another really, really good one from a search word perspective. A lot of people online, if you go into keyword research, are searching for what is the cost of living in Palm Harbor? What is the cost of living in South Tampa? So doing videos based around cost of living is an excellent way to be found through keywords. And now I'm talking about YouTube and having a YouTube channel that might be a little bit high level, but think about your marketing, think about your videos and your messages. Number one is getting your message across as who you are as an individual and what you do. Okay. People need to see, be able to search when they type in your name in Google. If they are interviewing you as an agent, they're going after, you know, say you're going a listing appointment and there's 2 other agents involved. Can they Google your name, find your Google My Business listing, see testimonials about you, find a video that says, this is who Nick is, this is how long he's been serving whatever community, and actually know you, right? If that's not there, do you have a pre-listing video that you're sending these people? What to expect before I actually get to the tape? Like, here's your homework before I get there. When I show up, you know, that way most of these things are covered, and now they have a relationship with you before you even get there. So it's really about documenting what you do, not necessarily coming up with new things, but think about your life as hyper local and how you can be the expert advisor in a super small niche area. And if that means going in the MLS, if you don't have a data set right now, go in the MLS and look at the neighborhoods and see the turnover rate, right? A neighborhood that you might think is great because it has a high price point, there might be only 25 homes that sell in that area. So maybe you look at another subset or another neighborhood that has a higher turnover rate where there's more homes being sold, and that's the neighborhood you glom onto, right? So there's a couple different things you can do, but always think hyper local and always think of your personal brand, who you are, what makes you great. You know, don't be afraid. I guess some of the biggest pushbacks I get is everybody wants to always be so professional and appear so professional and rigid and robotic and non-personal. You know, do you go to church? Do you do bake sales? Do you like to woodwork? Do you have kids? What are your hobbies? Those are all of the things that's going to make you stand out from everybody else in the market. And once they like you, it's game over. By the way, I'm an expert real estate agent, and here's some people that I help sell their houses for $15,000 over asking price. At that point, you're not being interviewed by other people. People are just coming to you.
So it goes back to that value proposition. What is your value proposition, right?
Yeah, one of the most important videos that you can do is literally the About Me video, and that it doesn't have to be a lot of fanfare. I will recommend for video that, you know, the best camera that you have is the one in your pocket, right? Don't think you need fancy. Like, I do have a DSLR camera set up here, but like, you don't need anything fancy, especially like iPhones, the new iPhones, anything Android based that's a couple of years old. The cameras are absolutely fantastic on those phones. You don't need anything more. You need a camera like this. You need a basic tripod like this. These are like $50 on Amazon, right? A good quality microphone. These are also like $50. And you can literally go out vlog style and shoot incredible video. One little trick is having movement in the background. Okay, so if you're if you're going to shoot a video, instead of just staring at a screen, this is great for lengthy, long-term, podcasting, long-form communication. But shooting a 30-second to a minute to 2-minute long video, and I'm specifically talking about social media, because our attention span on social media is about 8 seconds, which is really interesting, right? So if you could be walking and talking and having a moving background, people are drawn to that even more than just a standard screen. So like if you've shot a couple of videos and didn't have any success and you felt like, oh, my message isn't being heard or anything like that, if you're just sitting in front of a camera staring, it's extremely boring to somebody, unless you're a very jovial person or you have on crazy clown outfit or something like that. But if you can just simply walk and talk, that will up your engagement rate with your video, and people will be much more interested in what you're saying just by having that little bit of movement in the background. And you might not like me for this, but pay attention when you watch TV. When you watch a show on TV, follow how often the camera switches to keep your attention. A regular TV show will switch no more than 15 seconds will go by before there's a camera switch. And they do that on purpose. So when you're watching TV tonight and you're actually counting the camera switches, you're probably going to be like, that Nick told me not to pay, or told me to pay attention to this, and now it's driving me crazy. But it's for a reason, because having that movement on camera draws your attention and captures your attention. So having that movement in the background is really key.
So you're saying a tripod, a microphone, and an iPhone.
So having good video, like all of these phones will have great video, unless your phone is like 10 years old and it's a flip phone Razor from 2005. Yeah, right. Everybody had one of those Razors at the time, right? But any newer smartphone has a good enough camera to actually make work, right? The built-in phone or the built-in audio for these is not great. So that's one thing. People will not watch your video if the audio is bad, okay? So that's where something like this will come in. And you can use what's called a lavalier mic that'll clip to your chest. The problem with those is you have to have a cord that will run to the camera on the inexpensive side, because you can get those lavalier mics for $25 to $100 that have a cord, but then you're attached, right? The wireless ones that professionals use are very expensive. Say $500 and up. $500 would be just getting your feet wet in wireless communication with audio. And then you have to have monitoring, because you can go shoot something and then it didn't actually capture it and you don't know it till you go home and edit. It's a whole big problem. This is a company called Deity. They've been around for a couple years. Everybody's probably heard of Rode microphones. These guys compete directly with Rode. This is what's called a shotgun microphone, and it has what's called a cardioid pattern, which means that it will detect all of the audio going forward, but it'll reject the audio in the background. So when you have this set up on a tripod like this, it's wireless, so you can literally put that on a table in the kitchen and do your thing if you're inside of a house, right? Or you can just hold it out in front of you. It's going to pick up really, really good audio, and this guy only costs $100. So from a value perspective, I use this 90% of the time, and I have fancy camera equipment. When I go on site with an agent and we're doing like video, it's 9 times out of 10 is just very basic with this, honestly. So you don't need fancy equipment, but you definitely need good audio. This thing's a lifesaver. It's like $50. It's a tripod selfie stick, so you can put this on a tabletop. It's really, really cool. And I can maybe help you give links or whatever to Amazon. You can send out to people. That's fine too.
Yeah, because we had someone to ask where you do get the microphone. So that would be from Amazon as one place, correct?
Yeah. The microphone is called the Deity V-Mic D3, D like dog. And the cool thing about this one compared to the Rode, not that we're in like a product description mode now, I guess, but these are battery packed. So there is a battery pack in here, but this is what's called a smart connector. So this will turn off as soon as you unplug it. Where a lot of the Rode microphones are the more expensive microphones. When you unplug it, if you don't actually turn it off, the battery will run dead, and you go through batteries like crazy. That was a huge frustration, but this one's is pretty smart, and it saves your battery like that.
Okay, another question is, how do you sync the audio and video?
So when you use a shotgun mic like this, it automatically detects. And so you don't need to do any post-processing, any post-syncing, or anything like that. If you were using a wireless lavalier mic, you would have to do post-processing, which is a whole nother video editing in general. Just to kind of give you guys an idea from someone who does video editing, it takes about 45 minutes to edit 1 minute of video. So when you're thinking about recording a bunch of video and getting out there and doing a whole bunch of transitions and all this fancy stuff, it takes a lot of time on the back end, or it's expensive for someone like me to go in and actually do the video editing. So I suggest, and that's one of the reasons why I came out with my software, which is typically forcing you to be a one and done, helping you get really good at creating your message in a short 90-second sprint using tools like this. So there is no post-processing. You literally upload it and it's done. If you are looking to get more advanced, one of my favorite online video editing tools is called WeVideo, WeVideo. It's about $50 a month or $30 a month. It's cloud-based software. So if you wanted to get into dabbling into some video editing, you don't need a powerful PC to use it. It's got 90% of what you would use, like if you were like me who use like Adobe Premiere or Final Cut, which is really advanced like movie production software that requires a heavy computer and somebody like myself who's been editing for a while. WeVideo is one of my favorites as far as online cloud-based and relatively inexpensive.
So the editing part with this microphone is not that intense. And I think the key word as well is it doesn't have to be perfect.
It doesn't have to be perfect, right?
And it speaks that, you know,
Yeah.
we're human and it's not professional and probably better received because it is straight from you coming out that it's genuine, correct?
Yeah, and if you just look at your human nature, right? When you're somebody and you're consuming video content, what resonates with you, right? Do you resonate with a 100% perfectly polished person that never makes a mistake, or someone who can go on, you know it's in one take, you know that they're real, you know that they're genuine, and they're getting it done? That's where, so not to plug too much, but my software kind of blends the two, where you can have your logos, you can have your calls to action, you can have music in the background where it's semi-polished, but it's still one take, it's still raw, it's still genuine, and there's not a lot of fanfare behind it, and it's all automatic, which is good too. There's no post-processing needed.
And the name of that was, once again?
Video Chirp, VideoChirp.
Like a bird chirp.
Yeah, Video Chirp. It's a play off Twitter. So Twitter, you were limited to a certain amount of characters. Well, with my software, because I know our average attention span on Facebook or social media is 8 seconds. The average watch time of a video is actually only 20 seconds. I restrict you to 90 seconds on every video. So I don't let you ramble on for 2 or 3 or 5 minutes, because 90% of the time no one's going to watch that long. So you're better off practicing and getting used to conveying a message, a very short, quick message in 90 seconds or less. And that's, the logo's a bird. It's kind of a play off Twitter. So that's kind of where I came up with that.
Cute. So let's revisit the mic once more. So the name is Deity.
Deity, DEITY.
The model or the
V is in Victor, MIC, and then D is in dog, 3.
So it's once more.
VMic D3.
VMic D3.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that satisfied them.
And they have a D3 Pro, not really necessary. It's an extra, I think, $50 or $100. It gives you some fine-tune adjustments. That's really meant for if you have a DSLR camera with a audio input that's flexible. Camera phones don't need that, so you don't need to spend the extra money. Just get the basic one. It's just fine.
Okay, and once more on the tripod. They asked.
I don't have a model, but if you search inside Amazon for a selfie stick tripod, I think so this one's called a Benro, BENRO is the name. And then so you need the tripod, and then this is a cell phone mount that screws in with regular connectors. So this is like $5 or $8. this is by itself, and then the D3. So there's really 3 pieces.
Okay, great. Of course, I've got the gardener right at my window. They blow and they go. So sorry for the background.
Trying to get on the live stream.
So a member takes a video today, Nick, and where is the best platform, the best source to get that out for them to see results? I mean, what is your recommendation? And I know there's many, and
Yeah.
you spoke earlier on, YouTube and Facebook, Instagram. What can a member do to get that instant result to say it's out there?
So YouTube's a little bit more advanced. I recommend YouTube for somebody who's actually doing more video, because you have to be more, YouTube's more to be found, right? Facebook, you already have connections. More than likely, everybody has a personal Facebook page, and more than likely you have some friends, whether it's 300 friends or 3,000 friends. The common misconception I hear all the time with Facebook is a lot of people have tried to, say, boost a post with no results. Okay. So just real quick, the way that Facebook works, when you boost a post, all you're telling Facebook to do is have this content reach more people and engage with them. So I believe in boosting. Okay. And the reason I believe in boosting is because it's an engagement tactic. The problem with what most people you've heard on podcasts or anybody who's tried to do just a flat out boost is they were doing a boost expecting leads. It's a totally different thing. Do not expect to boost a post for $5 and get people to sign up for a form to be contacted. That's not what it's for. Facebook has everybody in what's called an audience. Okay. So everybody's inside of a certain bucket or a certain audience inside Facebook. So you might be in an engagement bucket by Facebook's terms because you like and share and comment on a lot of people's stuff. If you're not one of those people, you won't be in an engagement bucket, right? If you're the type of person to click off of Facebook and fill out a form, Facebook has labeled you with a form bucket or a traffic. There's different terms inside the platform. So from a cost perspective, from getting your message out there, the best thing you can do is do those about videos, do those other neighborhood style videos, and you can literally just boost them for $5 a day, $3 a day, and that's just going to get you attention. And attention is currency. It might not be money in your pocket. However, the days of Facebook of 5 years and 8 years ago when you could post something and everybody saw it are completely gone. Now it's pay to play. So you have to, in order for your message to be seen, you have to boost or put some money behind it for people to actually see you. So that's usually the first step, is to let people in your friends and family database sphere see your content more often by just boosting for $1 a day, a couple dollars a day, or what have you. Then as you get more advanced, then you can go into the ads manager and actually start running tactical ads to bring leads into your world. And that's what, this time right now, we're seeing about a 30% decrease in ad costs. So it's costing me 30% less for my clients to generate a lead than it was 2 months ago. And I'm getting almost 40% more impressions, meaning so the dollar that I put in, I'm getting 40% more viewable eyeballs on those ads right now, because everybody's home and everybody's glued to their social media. And for me, from a real estate agent's perspective, there's all these different platforms. There's Google, there's Facebook, there's YouTube, there's Instagram, there's TikTok now, if people are starting to see about TikTok, right? All those platforms have a certain age window. For us, for real estate agents, for buyers and sellers, Facebook still has the best window of the highest likelihood of people to see your content and be a transaction, meaning the 35 to 60-year-old person is still glued to Facebook. If you are an agent who wants to focus more on first-time home buyers, then maybe your demographic is 25 to 35. You could slay a little bit or slide a little bit more of your content over to Instagram, where it's a little bit lower age bracket, right? If you wanted to go up a little bit higher, right, LinkedIn is still powerful. Everybody thinks about LinkedIn as B2B. There's a lot of stuff that you can do inside LinkedIn to attract people that are in the maybe 40-year-old demographic to 55 or 60, that are business people, that are higher affluent. So different platforms have a different purpose, but from a cost perspective, from an average agent on the street, Facebook is still the best place to be to get your message heard by your target demographic.
And they don't have to spend a lot of money.
Correct. You can go with the boosting strategy to get your engagement. The Facebook is all about building audiences. So once you start getting people to interact with you, then you can build audiences, and then you can create lookalike audiences and do a whole lot of advanced stuff to attract more people that are similar to like your buyers and sellers, and then kind of go from there as far as getting actual leads and transactions. But
So
to start off, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
no, please go ahead.
I would say to start off with, you really just want attention. And right now, attention is the currency, because you can be the best agent in the world. You can have the most knowledge. And this is something that, my mom's been in the business since 1992. And she probably has as much real estate knowledge, if not more, than anybody I've ever met, as far as actually getting a deal from beginning to end with all the problems that can arise, right? But then there's other people that can't make their way out of a room, don't know anything about transactions, and are closing hundreds of deals per year in other markets across the country. And you look at that and you say, how is that even possible? How can someone who doesn't know anything about real estate, close all these deals? Well, they're out there. They're first to the consumer. They're marketing their message, and they're getting in front of people. And then they're just letting their admins and brokers and everybody else help them along the way figure it out. But it's really first message to the consumer. The fastest person there is winning.
So your takeaway there is demographically driven to your audience of what platform that you would select. And there are platforms there, Facebook, some that are not costly. Today, with where we are today, we want to give them something to support them that they don't have to go spend so much money, no money coming in. So in the interim, they can do their own video and get it out on Facebook. But a good question that came to us was, okay, I've got 400 Facebook friends, but 350 are realtors.
Right, yeah.
Most realtors have done that. That's their own little community of their friends. How do you expand on that to get an audience that you can actually sell to?
Sure. So you do have to have a Facebook business page in order to run ads.
Right.
So the trick there is to start your Facebook page, and it's literally as easy as clicking going into Facebook and saying, I want to start a business page. And you don't have to overcomplicate it or anything like that. But when you start a business page, it's literally pay to play. So my first recommendation to you is, you might only have a Facebook page that has 350 realtor friends. But if you've been in the business for any length of time, okay, everybody that's in your phone, everybody that you've done a deal with, anybody who's your database, your sphere, anybody you've ever come in contact with, upload that to a CSV file, okay, an Excel spreadsheet with just their email address. So find as many email addresses of your ideal client as you can, and hopefully you can get 1,000 people. I know a lot of people walk around with 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 people just in their phone. You can get a really solid address book, with email address book of 1,000 people. That's optimum. You can upload less, but 1,000 is optimum. You can upload that list into Facebook and create what's called a custom audience. Mm-hmm. So once you have that custom audience, you can start running ads to that custom audience. And you can also create what's called a lookalike audience. It's one of the most powerful things. And the reason why Facebook is a powerful platform is it will take a group of people that you've done business with, that like and trust, or people in your area, and it'll go out and it'll find millions of people just like that. Now, we don't need to be around millions of people. We only need a couple 100,000. So we would lower that demographic by a radius of Tampa Bay. But that is the best way to go from, I don't have anything going on Facebook, to getting an ideal client list in my area. And it's about a 50% match rate on Facebook. So if you have 1,000 people, about 500 of them will come back with matched results. But that's all you need to get started. Even if it comes back with 300, that's all you need to get started.
That will grow. Let me step back to the video. Evelyn Shapiro has been most patient. She asked a question about the lighting and
Mhm.
any recommendations regarding lighting when you're doing a video. So could
Yep.
you elaborate on that? And Evelyn, thank you so much for that question.
So that's probably one of the things that you'll be the most uncomfortable with to begin with, is having light shining in your face, right? We're always used to having light around us or light behind us, but I would recommend that you have some sort of ring light or what's called a soft box. If you are going to be like camera, so right now I have a soft box that's in front of me, to where it's not showing. You wouldn't see the rings around my eyes like you might have seen with some people. There's not a huge glaring or reflection. It's more of a softer light in the background, but you want to have some light in front of you. What I will say is, don't get too crazy thinking that you have to have all this elaborate lighting. One of the best things you can do is just be outside, right? Be in the sunlight. Or if you're at a house, if you want to shoot a video at a house, just be by a window, right? So if you're in the kitchen and there's a window in the kitchen, put the camera in front of the window so that natural light from the window is facing you. Don't have your back to the light, because then the sensor of the camera is going to pick up on that light and dim everything. So just always be conscious of, being outside is the easiest thing you can do. And if you are going to have a light in front of you, ring lights for $50 to $100, they range on Amazon. They're not super expensive. Or like a soft box, having it facing you is definitely the best way to go. The last thing you want to do is have any kind of really strong directional lighting on you that glares off you and really distracts on the video.
Awesome. What about BombBomb?
BombBomb's a great platform. So I don't directly compete with them as of right now. However, we do have video email inside my platform, Video Chirp. BombBomb's been around a lot longer. I highly recommend communicating through video email because it's very effective. Back to the individual basis. So we're right now, the best thing you can do as an agent is take off your selling cap and just put on your human cap, right? And finding out how people are and really sharing your message with people through video, sending out the video email and just saying, hey, I know times are tough. We're here. We're stuck at home too. Is there anything that I can do to help you out? Right. I just went to the store and got 24 rolls of toilet paper. If you need a couple rolls, I'll bring them to you. Or like,
Have you got
be
I
human.
can't find it.
Yeah. Right. I actually have a post on my Facebook page. We just ordered 3 industrial rolls from Amazon, and my son who's 3 years old, was holding it up. It's practically the size of his whole body. He's like, how's this going to fit on the wall, Dad? You got to do what you got to do, right? But yeah,
Right.
just being human. I love video email. I think it's a great way to communicate. I think Facebook Messenger is a great way to communicate. You know, it's very interesting to me when I talk to people, and like, there for whatever reason we separate business and personal so much. I'll talk to somebody who has an Apple phone and they FaceTime with their family 24/7. They think nothing of, just waking up and turning on the camera and FaceTiming with their brother, sister, uncle, best friend, or whatever. But then I ask them to record a video that's going to be public on their Facebook page, and they freak out. Like,
Oh,
there's no difference. Just be yourself, right? You don't have to know all of the answers. You just have to present yourself in a way that you are an authority. So don't speak out of turn, but just don't be so afraid. Just practice and just pretend like you know the, if you need to put a picture of your mom or somebody or your significant other in front of the camera so you're more relaxed, do that. Whatever it takes, whatever can bring that personality inside out of you. But people want to communicate with you, and they want to know who you are and what you do. And don't be afraid to not be all things to all people. That's one of the biggest mistakes is, I don't want to go live or I don't want to say that I'm a member of my church because I don't want to offend anybody. And what if somebody who's Jewish and I'm Christian and now they don't want to buy a house from me? Forget all that. It's you as a person. You're out in the streets, you're doing it. You are, it's not that serious. People will be attracted to you for who you are.
right. Respect of everyone's time. Everyone's hanging in there. We still have a large audience. So great information, Nick. But real quick, if you could please repeat the process of uploading the list on the business Facebook page.
So if you want to, can I give a plug for my Facebook group and then they could just watch videos in there?
That'd be
But
great.
yeah, so I mean, it's literally as simple. Make sure you have an Excel spreadsheet with it's a CSV file, and all you need to do is have the list of email addresses, right? And if you go on YouTube, you can just search how to upload a list into Facebook. There's 1,000 videos in there that will tell you exactly how to do it from a step-by-step basis. But all Facebook is doing is matching email addresses to people on the platform. The reason why the match rate is only like 50% is because email addresses are not the best way. If you have people's cell phone numbers, that's the best match. That gets like a 70% match. So do that, because not everybody has their correct email listed on Facebook, but everybody has their correct cell phone number listed as a recovery phone. And Facebook will use that data. So they might not have their cell phone on their personal profile, but if they get locked out, their cell phone numbers in Facebook's data. So it's got a much higher match rate if you do email and phone number.
Boy, that's good information. So the cell number is key.
Cell number's huge, yeah.
One question again on Facebook. Do the people in custom audience have to be your friends on Facebook?
No. So, and this is why I go back to video being so powerful. There's only certain, everybody, well, you might not have heard of a Facebook pixel. So what a Facebook pixel is just a line of code that sits on your website or a landing page or anything like that, that when a visitor visits your website, Facebook puts them in an audience, okay? That's more of a long-term, like people should always have their Facebook pixel activated, but what you can do to capture people on Facebook as an audience, you don't need the pixel. Anybody who interacts with your page, anybody who interacts with a video, you can then put inside an audience. So one of the ninja ways that we actually capture large audiences to begin with is by shooting a 1 to 2 minute long video. And when you promote that video as an ad, okay, all that someone needs to watch of that video is 3 seconds. So if they watch 3 seconds of that video, which is literally stopping their scroll, watching the very short 2-second introduction or whatever, boom, they're now captured into an audience. So that's how we take strategically, we can take a very short 2-minute long video and build huge audiences by running that ad for $5 to $10 a day, just by having people watch 3 seconds of that video and then putting those people into a custom audience and expanding from there. That's also a really good hack. I don't want to get too detailed here, but if you have one of my personal favorite things to do, and I don't necessarily, I'll go ahead and say it, right? So there's a lot of power inside Facebook groups. It's one of the biggest. If you are an individual agent and you want to have some real power in your marketplace, start a Facebook group. Okay. You've never seen a Facebook commercial until about 6 months ago. And now what are the commercials of Facebook on TV? People playing the kazoo and being in Facebook groups. They're promoting groups nationwide, worldwide, more than ever. So if you can be a local authority and start a group, even if it's small, you don't need to have thousands of people. But if you really want to be an authority in your market, start some sort of Facebook group around a passion that you love, whether it's baking cookies or whatever. Don't necessarily tie it just to real estate, but Facebook groups are powerful. So that being said, promoting yourself inside Facebook groups. So if you go around in your area, there's buy, sell, trade, there's mommy groups, there's all different kinds of groups out there. You have a personal Facebook page, but you also have a business Facebook page, okay? If you can get accepted into groups with your business Facebook page, or if you want to be super sneaky, create another profile that is identical to yours, but it's an entrepreneur profile like I have. You can check, look at my personal page, you'll see a Nick Sakis, and it's an influencer page. That is a page that looks identical to the page of me. It has my same face. Everything's exactly the same. It looks like Nick Sakis as an individual, but that is actually a business page. So when I join Facebook groups, I can comment as that influencer, as that business page, and start collecting data from that group. So, audience hack, if there's 500,000 people in a group, or let's say 5,000 people in a local mommies group, and you want to capture the attention of that audience, you post a video inside that group that'll be attractive to those people, and now you can capture them as an audience and show them real estate ads when they log back onto Facebook the next day. Super ninja extracting people from groups as a targeted audience hack. I could charge money for that small training. I probably should have. No, but that's really it's Facebook groups are super powerful. I would advise everybody to go in your market. There's tons of groups out there, and just start communicating with people and just have conversations. And you can always lead it back to real estate, but be personable.
Great, great. So we have a question from Susie Nelson Crowley. Her question is, I'm wondering about the new virtual tour rules for MLS. Can I post a YouTube video of the home that has my branding in MLS? I will answer that.
Yeah.
Stellar has virtual MLS options explained when you go into your portal. And what is not allowed is personal branding and public remarks. That is still not allowed. So you can go in, Susie, and read those rules and options in detail and explain, but they do not allow the personal branding. So thank you for that question. Nick, if there's one takeaway for an agent that is sitting out here concerned with where their business is today and said, how can I go market and not spend my money that I don't know if I've got some coming in, what could they do? You gave great information today, but what is that one takeaway that you say as a marketing expert, go do this or that beyond what you've already given us?
Honestly, going back to just using the software that's free, which is Facebook. Okay. So forget the paid ads, forget everything. This takes a little bit of work, but it's just like marketing 101, reaching out to people that already know, like, and trust you. Do you have a database of people that you haven't talked to? If you have 350 friends on your Facebook profile, when's the last time you talked to every single one of them? Go through every single one of your Facebook friends. It doesn't cost you any money. Look at their profile, go see what they've posted on in the past 6 months, and send them a message. Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. I saw that your son just had a birthday. That looks really awesome. My son's turning 3 as well. Start a conversation. It doesn't have to be super high level marketing tactics, shooting video and creating audiences and all that stuff. For free, there is enough to be seen on Facebook through Messenger, through people you already know. I didn't even get into Facebook Marketplace, but if you wanted to post stuff for free in there, that's the new Craigslist. So if you have active listings right now and you want to get some free leads, post it in Facebook Marketplace every single day. The leads go directly to your Messenger inbox. You can have conversations directly from there. Post in Facebook Messenger. It's 100% free if you have listings already in the marketplace. Reaching out to people in your database and your sphere through Messenger, and then starting that business profile. If you've never run a Facebook ad before, starting that business page, boosting some content that is who you are through video to either the list that you've uploaded or targeting people that are interested in your neighborhood, your demographics, Palm Harbor, South Tampa, things around South Tampa, the restaurants, whatever you're covering. There's interest-based targeting that you can use so that when you do run an ad, it's highly likely that the people that are watching it are going to receive it well.
Nick, thank you so much. A lot of valuable information today. Wow. But it certainly proves that we can continue to do business in this virtual world that we're living in today. But as we've said, we'll come out of this stronger and more educated on how we can be more efficient as practitioners in the real estate industry. But your information we'll post out there. It was on the flyer as well, and I would think that you would be gracious to answer emails if someone had a question.
Yeah. Email, you can. So if you want to find me on Facebook, just search Nick Sakis. You can search Nick Sakis in Google. I'll show up in 20 different things. And my email address is nick@getamplifiedmarketing.com if you wanted to reach me there as well.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
A pleasure
you.
to have you. And that concludes our panel for today. Thank you for joining us. We went a bit longer, but I hope you all found the information to be most valuable and useful in your day today. Good luck to you all. Be well. Stay safe. We thank you. Bye-bye.